Welcome back to the counselor's office. I'm Mr. Gaming Counselor, and we are live at the counselor's office. We are going to do a tier list. I figured, why not? We are ending the 10-year saga of light and darkness with Destiny, and I figured, as like a final hurrah, hooray, do a video that isn't me just like criticizing Bungie or documenting the downfall of them killing themselves. Literally. We're gonna just do a good old faithful tier list where I focus on raids and dungeons. However, I'm gonna just do raids for this specific video, and I've already done the work of separating all the dungeon stuff out. So we're gonna start. This includes everything from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2. I am going to be very honest and say that if it's a Destiny 2, in my personal opinion, if they were revised, like remade, that they're better now than they were in the past. In my opinion, you could argue saying, oh, Vault of Glass was better in the back in the day than it was now in Destiny 2. For my list, we're going to assume that we're going off of D2 variants. And if it's a D1 only, that like Wrath of the Machine, obviously we'll keep it in that lens. But most of this is going to be D2. So with that said, let's start with, yes, Vault of Glass, the very first one. I think when I think of Vault of Glass, I do think there is some nostalgia berries. I think the beginning part of the raid is probably the most boring. Raising the spire, you're capturing a plate. Like, you're not doing anything fancy. I'm sorry, it's just not doing it. Confluxes, also very boring. Obviously, you have just very boring. Oracles. Now, I did like the spin. I'll give it D. I think the oracles, what is improved and made better in D2, and it especially the if you're playing like the challenge, it kind of spices it up. But again, it feels like you're spending too much time in the singular room. You're in 3 encounters and like feels like the same encounter, or at least 2 of the same thing. Like, and then Templar, I would put Templar at B. I think Templar is a very quick, very fast, but still very fun encounter. I don't think it's anywhere near where it needs to be, in my opinion. I can tell you right now that's going to be an awkward cut, but oh well. We're continuing on, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on to Gorgon's Maze. It becomes annoying after a while. Like, when you first experience it, you're like, oh my god, this is crazy, and then there's a little triumph. Outside of that, it just feels like an extra like wall. Maybe when it first came out in year one, but Destiny 1, it was cool, but I find it more annoying than fun. Gatekeepers, I think, is pretty fun. The going between the different worlds and then communicating and working together. I liked it, especially on Master. I think it was fun. I think it's pretty good. Atheon, I mean, I don't think it's S tier by any means. I don't think it's bad. I think it's fun. I enjoy it. It's very fast. It feels fast paced, especially with the changes that they made in D2. I mean, you can't go wrong. I think it's a very solid boss fight. I think there are much worse boss fights and a lot better. I'd give it A. The skills. I'm guessing, so this is Crota. I'm guessing this is the beginning. Yes, so this is the beginning part. They made changes. I'm just going to say F. I know they made changes and some people are like, oh, this is really cool. But I mean, you can literally, if you really you know how to do it, you can actually cheese it. But I mean, overall, it's more annoying than it is fun. Honestly, this is unironically probably the hardest encounter in the raid, because of how annoying and stupid some people can be. I know I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm just going to be very bluntly honest. Bridge. It's E. I think, you know, it's not bad. It's more engaging. When I'm thinking of all raids in Destiny history, the bridge in Crota's End, it's all right. I would say it's E though. I wouldn't say it's B or C or D. I just, that's my opinion. Utes. I would also say it's E. You're just running around shooting wizards and then you shoot a bigger wizard. That's it. That's all you do. Even with the changes to D2, not impressed. Now, Gauntlet, I'm just gonna put that in F. Like, who cares about the Gauntlet? Crota, I will give a B. I like Crota. You know what? I think Crota was a massive improvement from, because in D1 you literally just had one person do all the work, one sword. Now you can have up to 3 people doing swords, and then it's just actual straight up DPS phase. And the boss moves, he's always, especially if you're doing master, day 1 he was hitting hard. Like, you actually have to coordinate, you have to actually, it's not just one person standing and doing ad clear. Like, you actually have to be engaged, and you have to be hyper aware of your environment, because you're getting unstopped champions to spawn, you're getting exploder thralls, the boss is shooting you. And it's one of the few bosses you can pull out your sword and use a sword on a sword boss. It's fun. I like it. Hall of Souls. This is King's Fall. I'm just gonna put it in F. The Crux. This is all the transversal. Again, F. You know, I'll give it E. I think the Crux is kind of fun, you know, going through. I think you're doing the jumps and the ships. You know, the more I think about it, this is probably the more fun transversal. I would say it's B, just because it is fun to just hop from ship to ship, have stoop. You can play around with your playmate. It's not as annoying, because if you fall, then the rest of the team can pull you forward. Whereas if you fail, and like the steals of Crota, you all wipe. So this doesn't wipe you as much as like this, but this is an actual encounter, whereas this is just transversal. Totems, I'll give C. I think Totems has a lot going on, a lot of working. Everyone has to participate, especially if you're doing like challenge. I really enjoy it. I don't think C is bad, but I think we have such a catalog of encounters that I can't see myself saying it's S, A, or B, which are going to be like the top 3 of everything. This one, yeah. So I'm going to say C. War Priest. Again, War Priest is really cool for like the novelty of being able to sit in front of a boss and use like snipers, whatever you want to use, rockets. And it's pretty quick. It has not like the very bare basic encounter, like mechanics. There's not a lot really going on, but is it the worst? No, I would put it in C. Golgoroth, I would put that in A. I think Golgoroth as just a regular boss, there is so much interaction. There's so much that could go wrong. And overall, it's not your typical sit in one place and shoot. Like this is, you have to move around the boss, you have to coordinate, and you're having people also keep gaze. The challenge is really fun when everyone has to get gaze, so it makes you synergize there, so everyone's participating. Overall, it's one of those encounters that not everyone's just going to sit there and diddle their finger. Everyone has to participate, and you have to be understanding what's going on and what the mechanic works, because you just stand there not helping, you're going to kill your DPS and the time. Let's see. Transept. I think that's Penis Wall. I don't care. Back in D1, you could just swing up, use a sword to climb your way up, and I still think you can in D2. But like, oh, outside of that, meh. It's a novelty. Don't care. Death Singers. This was, I'm gonna put it in C. I think this was a good. It's like the pre to the final, and teaching people how to do the base mechanic. Overall, into the final boss, I think it's all right, but there's really not like a lot going on, and there's no way I could put Death Singers in B or A tier, in my opinion, especially with D2 when you could just melt them so easy. Oryx, probably my first S tier. This boss may not be your prototypical sit and shoot, and you do sit and shoot, but you have to do a lot of things leading up. There's 2 different like in between rounds, which is kind of new. Usually it's very prototypical for bosses. After you do damage phase, either you just return and reset, or you have to do like one thing. Whereas the Taken King's like, no, you don't get to just go back into the cycle of things. Now you first have to deal with this end DPS phase, where now you've got to deal with either bombs exploding everywhere, or you have to go into a battle dome and fight against a mini Oryx, which is the Oryx that you kind of fight throughout the campaign of Taken King. And it's really fun. I like it. I enjoy it. It's fresh. Probably one of the best raid bosses, especially just in size, where you feel like you are literally fighting a god. In that scale, just being able to defeat him for the first time is really exciting. Foundry, I'm going to speak controversial. I think this is the best for Wrath of the Machine. This is the best starting encounter, bar none, because you are learning the base mechanics off the rip. You are killing ads and you're fighting the boss. You're not just sitting there twiddling your fingers. You are actively like, they took the boss fight and split up into phases, but this is like the introductory of it all, like the base mechanics. I really like that. Like I really enjoyed it. And it's very chaotic. There's like a bunch of ads, and you're like, when you first were doing it, you're like, I'm killing these ads. What the hell am I doing? So I have fond memories of it. I absolutely think it's S tier. Vosik, the Archpriest. I like the fact that they had like the doors and the screens. It was pretty neat. I'm gonna say it's B though. Like, is it Golgoroth? Like Golgoroth level bossing? No, not in my opinion. I think Golgoroth, even though it is cool, like you have to, throw the bombs, you're fighting enemies, and then you're having to go and figure out the door situation. I mean, we have that, and we'll get to it in a minute with Last Wish, that I think is done better in my opinion. Siege Engine, Siege Engine is either like F or S, and I'm gonna say it's A. I think Siege Engine is fun, it's chaotic, it's crazy, and if they brought it back, I don't know what they could do to revamp this encounter, except make it more annoying, I guess. But I think it was so cool that you were repairing the Siege Engine. You're literally on a vehicle as you are moving. The encounter, it's a moving encounter. Like, a lot of people don't understand. This is a moving encounter. This vehicle is moving. At the end of it, at least. At the end of it. You're going through the little maze. You're getting it activated. You're getting it set up. You're fighting like tanks. I think you fight a spider tank if I remember. Yeah, but it's a lot of junk, and you have to really work as a team. It's exciting, and then you get to sit on it, and you get to go for a little joy ride. I don't know. It's been a minute, but I have some fond memories of it. Server farm. Is that for like the secret stuff? Like, the server farm was neat. You're going through. That's where we found what was it, Pete or whatever his name is, the Randall the Vandal. Randall the Vandal. That's where the legend was born, was in the server farm. Perfection Complex. I don't remember much, but I don't think I liked it, because I think this is the one where you had to deal with a bunch of shanks. I did not like it. Now, I think Acris Arc Prime is the pinnacle of bosses, in my opinion. I again don't know what they would do to fix it or change it up, because this is another boss that was really good with swords, but there's so much going on. And even if you did like the challenge mode, so fun, so engaging. And when you got Outbreak Prime through the secret mission and stuff like that, was also really exciting. It's unfortunate that this raid had very little life, and when it was introduced, it is since then retained this popularity within the community to desperately have it back. One of the best raids in Destiny history, and Bungie refuses to bring it back. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Now we're talking about D2. Here we are with D2 Underbelly. That's right, Underbelly. I did not care for it, so it's going in F. The Castellum, again, didn't care for it. Royal Pools, I think, was mid. Yeah, I mean, you know, I'll give it D. You stood in one place, you shot some chains. It wasn't like, out of all the D1 raid encounters we've ever had, you know what? I've talked myself into it. Like, I would put Ur-Ute above Royal Pools, in my opinion, because you're essentially doing more. You're fighting a boss, whereas this, you're just shooting ads. You're really not doing anything with the Royal Pools. Pleasure Gardens, I'm actually going to surprise people. I'm going to put that in A tier. This was pretty unique in the fact that this was like a stealth encounter, and you had the whole point was to stealthily get around and not be seen, which is something that Destiny 2 players had never had to do. Mostly because we just shoot first, ask questions later, whereas this one, you just can't necessarily do that. You have to hide, and you had to literally have a leader, and then you have the person up top doing all the calls. Like, overall, I liked it. I think Pleasure Gardens was good. The Gauntlet, I liked it. I think it ran a little too long. I'm going to put it in B. I still think the Gauntlet is really something different, something fresh, something new. And everyone had to participate, because if you sucked, everyone knew you sucked, because they would point out you saying, hey, you're the reason we wiped because you lagged behind. So a lot of people aren't going to like it. I think it's B tier. Callus, I'm going to put it in B tier. And here's why. Callus was whenever it was around, became the punching. Now we have Riven, but back in the day, Callus was the punching bag for everyone to do damage tests. I think his mechanic in his little throne world area, where he's like the big head dude and you're having to like slide around, I think that's fun. But inside the main room, all you're doing in the main throne room for the robot is jumping through the symbols and then just doing ad clear. You're not doing anything spectacular. Like, it's like a couple people are doing work while the rest of everyone else is just shooting trash, and that's it. It's not that engaging. It really is. I think people are looking at Leviathan through rose-tinted glasses. Callus, like, there's more going on of Crota. Like, everyone's participating through most of this, versus Callus, where 3 people are doing one thing while one person is like jumping through symbols while 2 other people kill ads. I know that maybe you could say Atheon should be at the same level, Crota could be at the same level. I just enjoyed these boss fights in general, like the actual fighting of the boss. Callus was just hopping from plate to plate and just shooting his head. He didn't do anything special, whereas Crota could kill you. Atheon, well, I don't know what Atheon did. Maybe he could kill you, but Crota could definitely kill you. I would probably put Crota ahead of Atheon. Maybe Atheon should be B tier. I'll put B tier. The more I think about it, there's no shot that Atheon's in the same tier as Crota, because Crota is a lot more engaging and threatening than Atheon. So now that I think about it, I would absolutely put that here. What else? We have the reactor. You know what? I'm just gonna save a lot of time and I just did not like. I'm gonna put this in C, because I thought it was a good introduction, like kind of like how Death Singer was. I think Urgos was fun. I'll put it in B. I think his mechanic was fun, but again, yeah, and having to dodge the capture. But outside of that, it's the same thing of Callus, where it felt like only a couple people were really doing something, or at least the 3 people that knew what they were doing, and the other 2 people were just killing stuff. That's kind of what it feels like. Statue Garden. I did not care for it at all. Power Conduct, same thing. It is very garbage. Repel the Assault. Now, this is when things get interesting. I will put this in, I'm actually going to put this in B, because I think this was really neat, both visually and interactively. Like, you were learning the base mechanic for the final fight. I really enjoyed it. I know people struggled. And Val, listen, I may have only had like 2 completions of this, and I'm not ashamed to say it, because the community this is one of those bosses, like, I would, like, if we're talking about like the best D2 boss, I think people had fewer encounters with Val than they did Riven and maybe even Witness right now. I think people truly struggled back in the day with Val, and it got to the point where if you didn't have a certain amount of clears, you would be instantly kicked. That's just how toxic the Destiny 2 community really is. Like, I knew how to do the mechanics. I had studied it. I have failed doing it with teams who had no idea what they're doing. Like, out of everyone in any team I joined that never did it before, like, I spent hours and hours, and like, I knew what to do, but people just could not survive or do the mechanic. And because of that, I never got a clear. And suddenly I got a clear, and I was able to get another clear, and I got like the Callus, like at the end of its lifespan, before they sunsetted it. I got what I could out of the raid, and I was like, okay, I'm done. It's getting sunset. Who cares anymore? It's unfortunate. Out of everything I would love to flawless, I wish I could flawless Val. It's one of those bosses that were so mechanic based. It wasn't about DPS, it was about working as a team, and I love it. Like, this was true challenge. It wasn't just, ooh, champions, ooh, you're under level. No, this was, you need to be able to survive and do mechanics correctly. And that was huge. Like, this is probably the pinnacle of mechanics for a Destiny raid, in my opinion. That's why so few people could do it, or most people struggled with it. Callie, you know what I said about the Archpriest? Literally the same kind of mechanic where you had to go into doors to survive, but I think Callie's is better. I think Callie is A tier in that comparison. I think working on figuring out the symbols, sitting on the plates, then doing damage. When this first came out, people struggled with this, even though it was pretty simple. People had to come up with like convoluted strategies on how to do it. Nowadays, obviously, it's a joke, but if you're looking at in the wide lens of Destiny history, I think this was a great opening boss fight, which would lead to like one of the best raids in the game. Shirochi. I'm gonna put Shirochi in B. I think I loved the elevator strategy, but I hated the boss. The whole, like, it's the reverse, whereas it felt like Callie was an opening boss, whereas Shirochi was just a mechanic, because you can just nuke her. Like, back when it first came out, obviously that was you had infinite. No, you didn't have infinite ammo, but you had like infinite reload and stuff like that. In my opinion, no, I think they nerfed that. It's been a minute, the timeline. But in my opinion, Shirochi, I just didn't enjoy it, because I felt like it was when they first really started to shield gate things. And I do not like shield gating. I don't enjoy it. It feels more of like a bad mechanic than an actual boss fight, because it forces you to go up the chain. I don't know. And also the encounter triumph is still bugged to this day in certain regards. It's whatever. Morgeth. Do I think Morgeth is B or A? Do I think Morgeth is the same level as Golgoroth? And I say no. I think Morgeth is another B tier. I like his mechanics. It's fun. Like, it's engaging. You actually have to work together. But there's no shot that it's better than Golgoroth when you're comparing. No shot. Riven. Wait, why is it backwards? The Vault. The vault. I'm going to put it in C. I like the symbols. I think, you know what? No, I'm going to say vault. Honestly, the more I think about it, I think vault was actually A tier because you actually had to like, no, you, even to this day, people struggle with anything symbol based, and you had to also defend and protect and make sure that you didn't have the swords to the ding. And it's pretty fast. Like I don't know. I like vault. I don't mind it. I also like the challenge of making sure that knights stay out of the room. Riven of a Thousand Voices. If we're talking about the cheese, if you do the cheese, she's F tier. If we're talking about if you're saying we're doing everything the way that they were intended in the first place, then S tier. Like, she is fantastic when it comes to mechanics. She's really fun, and even if you're not like doing necessarily the cheese, you can still one phaser before you even have to worry about eyes. Like, you can absolutely destroy her where you don't even have to worry about eyes in the first place. She really is a joke at this point. Like, she's been power crept, but back in the day, like, if you were doing eyes, ooh baby, talk about a challenge. Queen's Walk. I didn't like Queen's Walk. I thought like having that extra step was more annoying than it was fun. All right, Hollow Map. I thought it was neat. I'll give it C. It was neat being able to go to part of the Lost City, and then you're reading a map and going around, but that's it. It was more of a novelty, like guiding people with a map. It's just more of a novelty. Ablaze Glory. Like, I'm gonna be honest, I think it's A tier. I don't think I think when it comes to transversal, it's probably the best transversal we've ever had, in my opinion, because you're sparrow racing and you're dodging enemies, and this ball will literally destroy you. I thought it was really fun, and you had a chance to get one of the best sparrows in the game by surviving it. Yeah, I really liked it. It was very nervous. Like, when I did when I did the flawless run of this, it was very unnerving because you could just screw up really easily if you didn't have the raid sparrow already. Vault access, I'm gonna put it in C. I think vault access was fun, but there really wasn't anything going on that excited me. Insurrection Prime, I'm gonna put in B. I think he was fun. Being able to have a boss that roams around, because you gotta think, back when this came out, this was like one of the first roaming bosses we've ever had. Like, where you have the full access to the map. Like, that was pretty huge. You're in a full access map around the boss who's in the center. You're interacting with mini bosses, the little berserkers. Yeah, I would say it's B. I don't think it was like A or S tier, but I would definitely say it's B tier. Like top 3, right? Hive Ritual. Oh, Crown of Sorrow. I absolutely hate the Hive Ritual. My God, the worst encounter. No. Kingdom of Sorrow. The transversal, mid. Galron's Deception. I think it was, I'm going to just go ahead and tell you right now, these are A tier. I think both of these are fantastic. Again, moving mini boss, and then you had the same mini boss with the big boss, and you had to really work together. Like, the mechanics, I enjoyed the bubble bursting. Like, you're in different segments, and you have to work together in those different segments and then interact with the other people. Like, there's a lot going on, and I really enjoyed this raid. I think it was Crown was absolutely A tier. I'm just gonna do this. I hate this raid. It is like it was the Vault of Glass at home. I did not like any of these encounters. These are garbage to me. I did not enjoy it. I still don't enjoy it. I regrettably, if I have to do this, I want nothing to do with this raid. And I just absolutely despise this raid. with a passion. And that's all I'm going to say. Surviving the blizzard, I think it was neat. I'll give it an E, but I did not care for the frost. Crypt security, I'll give it an E. Atrix, I think I'll give a D. Like, if we're talking, you know what? Let's be fair. When it first came out, yeah, I'm just still D. Like, it's cool, the mechanics, but at the end of the day, people figured out you can just instant gib the boss and bypass a lot of the mechanics, which people were starting to do on day one. It's just, I'm not excited about Atrix. I'm sorry. Spacewalk. It's a novelty, so it's going in B. I don't think it's better than like Vault and stuff like that. But I think we got a banger soundtrack, and it's being out in space and being able to have to like survive or you fall literally into the abyss. It was very stressful, especially doing the flawless run of it. Very, very stressful. So there's that. Nuclear descent. I'm going to put D. I did not care for it. Taniks. He's just going to go B. I think he's a B boss. Like, how many times do we have? It's one of those, how many times do we have to kill you, old man, or tell you, old man? And like, I like the mechanics, but it feels more, I'm going to be honest, it feels less like a raid and feels more like a Nightfall Strike or something, like with 6 people. That's my opinion. It's just, it doesn't feel like raid boss. I mean, hell, I would even say Sanctified Mind felt more of like a raid boss than Taniks. Taniks just feels like I don't know. All right, Disciples Bog, I think was way too long. Did not like it. Absolutely too long. Acquisition. It was, you know what? It was all right. I don't think, I'm going to put it in C. Like, it was fun. It were what it is. But again, it's one of those just sit and kill things. Collection. I'm trying to, let's see, collection. It was fast paced. I'll give it B. I think most of this is just, whoops, sorry. Yeah, no, that's right. This goes here. I think most of this is B. Most of my thought on Disciple is that it's B. Whereas I think Rolk, in my opinion, is absolutely S tier. Again, one of the fully fledged bosses that truly move within the space, and you're stuck on a small platform. He's drop kicking you. He's making you look like a clown. He's mocking you. Like, he felt like the real baddie. Also, he's the most unique outside of Riven. Like, I think out of all these are like, oh, these are Hive, these are Fallen, these are Cabal. Whereas Riven and Rolk are probably one of the few bosses where like, wow, that is a new enemy type that we've never seen before. All right, so we're getting on. Oh God, you know what? Here, let me make life easier for you. Another one that's just an abomination. Even Nezarec. The only thing I'll say is that I think the planets is an S tier encounter. I think it is really fun, and the synergy and working together. Like, I really do like planets. And it is the only encounter that I enjoy doing. Even when people struggle to do it during Pantheon, I loved it. I think the boss is garbage though, but the mechanics themselves carry that encounter. All right, now we're in the final shape. That's right. Here we are at Salvation's Edge. Substranium. It is a very mid encounter. Herald of Finality. Okay, so we're stepping up the mechanic. And so with that, I will give it C. It's taking this, the Substranium mechanic and applying it to a boss fight. But The boss fight is very generic. There's nothing special or unique about the fight itself. It's C tier. Monolith. This is where things get interesting, and this is where I go B tier. I think the Monolith is using the symbols and it's interweaving, so you're having to communicate with people, and you're having to focus on tormentors and subjugators. There's a lot of communicating that has to go on, making sure everyone has enough, like you're working as a team. I think that's absolutely good. Wait, hold on. Did I get my things backwards? I'm sorry. Monolith is the moving around, I think, right? Yes. So I'm going to put it in D. Like, who cares? It's respiratory. That's the one I'm talking about. This is third encounter. This is the one that's B. Yeah, that's B. Verity. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not like Verity. But the reason I don't like Verity is because the community struggles with it. But I'm putting it in an S tier. Even though even some of the developers say they don't even know how to do it. When you have a well-oiled machine, like I don't know how to dissect. I'll continue to say that, but I know how to do the inside and swap symbols, and it is so fun. I enjoy it. Even on master, when the first couple times you're doing it is fun. When you're trying to do challenge mode, it sucks. But when you're just doing it, I love that high intensity survival, having to dunk the symbols, then going to look at your own dead body to tell people the ghost. Like, it is very interactive. Again, Valkyr or Valkyr, whatever his name is, a lot of mechanics. So yes, even though I hate it, I also like it. With a good team, I love it. With most teams, this is an F tier encounter, in my opinion. Zenith Ascent, I think is way too long. I'm putting that in F. It's neat, and it kind of reveals how freaking massive the witness is, because you're literally climbing up to the witness, and he's just standing there. But not my cup of tea of how long it is. The Witness. This is the pinnacle, but it isn't to me. I think, you know what? I'm going to be very, I'm going to say he's B tier. The only thing that makes this boss fight hard is trash ads and people not knowing how to jump. That's it. That's the only thing that's unique. Shooting symbols, like it's so easy to do. Like, the hands are just a joke. I think I would rather have a boss that just straight out can kill you if you're being stupid, like Crota, than the Witness, where he just has an instant wipe mechanic, and the reason you die is because you're stupid, versus he's in your face. And he's also just another boss that just sits there. You're shooting his crit. There's nothing special or unique going on with this boss fight. You're sitting on a platform. You're shooting a crit. The only thing you have to do is jump and avoid. That's it. Like, you're doing the same thing with Crota, or sorry, Oryx, but with more steps during the damage phase. Whereas like Rolk, you have to actually like survive. Riven, you're going from point to point, and if you don't do enough damage, you have to remember how to shoot the eyes to make sure you don't wipe. Axis, in my opinion, is probably one of the best boss fights, because there's a lot going on leading up to that fight, and then you have to actually like do some other mechanics. Valkyr is nothing but mechanics until like the very end where you do DPS. So it's non-stop mechanics with Valkyr, in my opinion. And so that's why I think he literally is better than the Witness. The Witness wants to be the best, and I think it's a good boss fight, but there's no shot that the mechanics in Valkyr, Axis, even Rolk, like even just the fight with Rolk from one day one to another day one was as intimidating. Yes, it took people longer to beat Rolk, or not Rolk, the Witness, but that's because he was a DPS check and they nerfed everything to the ground. Whereas Rulk, remember when people faced off against Rulk on day one, they had full-fledged bubbles and well at full potential, and he just drop kicked them out of oblivion. He did not care. And he moved around. He was very aggressive. He was very threatening. And throughout the entire DPS, you had to be on lockdown. Whereas Witness, you just had to pay attention and know when to jump. And yes, people struggle with that. And we can make an argument, but just because people have skill issues doesn't mean that it's actually harder. And that's my thought, ladies and gentlemen. That is my video for Destiny in the 10 years of all the raid encounters. And that my thoughts. Let me know what you think down below. Do you think these are S tier? I think this is going to really trigger a lot of people because a lot of people do not like this encounter. This one's going to be questionable to a lot of people. People are going to hate this. And people are going to hate this as well. But realistically, I think that's where we're at. Until next time, hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, as always, game out. Huzzah.